Welcome to Flash Core, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. Good evening. Tonight, we bring you a story that has sent shockwaves across the globe, a development that has left millions glued to their screens, searching for answers and reassurance. Today, August 5th, 2025, the world faces a chilling new reality. The international order, already strained by years of tension, has reached a critical tipping point. The United States has begun deploying tactical nuclear weapons to bases in the United Kingdom, a move unseen in over a decade, and one that signals a dramatic escalation in military readiness. The quiet English countryside, once a symbol of peace and tradition, is now on the front line of a renewed geopolitical struggle. Villages that have stood for centuries now find themselves shadowed by the specter of nuclear arms. Military transport planes landed at RAF Lakenheath under the cover of darkness, carrying warheads designed for battlefield use, not city destruction. These weapons, smaller in yield but no less dangerous, represent a new chapter in nuclear strategy. In nuclear arms, limited is a dangerous illusion. Even so-called tactical weapons have the power to unleash devastation and provoke uncontrollable escalation. This deployment is a hardening of the West's military posture, a direct signal to Moscow that NATO is prepared to defend its allies with unprecedented resolve. Russian President Vladimir Putin swiftly condemned the move, calling it an existential threat to his nation's security and announcing a dramatic military maneuver in response. The Kremlin's rhetoric has grown sharper and its actions more unpredictable. Now, two nuclear-armed powers are staring each other down, with little room for error. The world's most powerful militaries are on high alert, and the risk of miscalculation has never felt more real. The old fears of the Cold War, brinkmanship, mutual destruction, and the ever-present threat of annihilation, are suddenly new again, haunting a generation that thought such dangers were history. The world is watching, anxious about what comes next. In living rooms, public squares, and government offices, people everywhere are holding their breath, hoping that cooler heads will prevail in the days ahead. Deploying nuclear weapons isn't just about storing them safely in a remote bunker. It's a complex, high-stakes process that involves shifting these weapons from secure storage into positions where they can be used at a moment's notice. This means not only physically transporting the warheads, but also activating a whole network of security, logistics, and command protocols to ensure they are ready for rapid deployment if needed. Moving nuclear weapons into a state of readiness at forward bases transforms them from passive deterrence into active components of military strategy. This step is a clear signal to both allies and adversaries that these weapons could be used quickly if the situation escalates. Today, American-owned nuclear warheads are stationed at RAF Lakenheath, a U.S. Air Force base located on British soil. This deployment is part of a broader NATO strategy to reinforce the alliance's eastern flank and reassure European allies. The B-6112 tactical nuclear bombs now positioned here are designed for flexibility and precision. By placing them closer to potential conflict zones, military planners can dramatically reduce the time it takes to respond to a crisis, making deterrence more credible. While tactical nukes are less powerful than their strategic counterparts, their destructive power is still immense, capable of wiping out entire military formations or devastating cities. The distinction is more about intended use and range than about the scale of destruction. The terrifying reality is that once any nuclear weapon is used, even a so-called small one, the line between a limited exchange and all-out nuclear war almost disappears. Escalation can happen in minutes, with catastrophic consequences. This redeployment reverses decades of arms control progress, signaling a shift back toward Cold War-era nuclear deterrence. It's a move that raises tensions and increases the risk of miscalculation. Although the weapons remain under strict U.S. control, their presence on British soil forges a tighter bond between London and Washington, reinforcing the transatlantic alliance and sending a message of unity to both friends and foes. Highly trained crews regularly rehearse for scenarios that everyone hopes will never become reality. These drills are essential for maintaining readiness, but they also underscore the ever-present danger of nuclear conflict. For the world, this is a significant escalation, a reminder that the nuclear threat is not a relic of the past, but a very real and present danger. Nuclear deterrence relies on the credibility of threats, having weapons not just in storage but ready and in place, visible to those who might challenge the status quo. It's a dangerous game, played with the most destructive tools humanity has ever invented. The risks are enormous, and the margin for error is razor thin. In this new era of heightened tensions, the stakes have never been higher. Every move is watched, every signal analyzed, and the world holds its breath, hoping that deterrence will hold. Moscow's response was immediate and unmistakable. President Putin on state television accused NATO of aggressive expansion and declared the UK deployment a red line. He promised an asymmetrical and effective response, words that sent analysts scrambling. The centerpiece? A massive naval mobilization. Russia's northern and Baltic fleets, up to 150 warships, are heading to sea. This is no routine exercise, it's a full-scale show of force. Submarines, destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels are moving into the North Atlantic, Baltic Sea, and English Channel. Russia is projecting power right on NATO's doorstep. It's gunboat diplomacy for the 21st century. The West faces a direct military challenge and a powerful propaganda message. The risk of miscalculation is real, and rising. 150 warships, an armada of unprecedented scale in recent history, now cut through the waves, their presence impossible to ignore. This is one of Russia's largest naval mobilizations since the tense days of the Cold War, a show of force designed to send a clear message to the world. The fleet boasts modern frigates, bristling with hypersonic missiles capable of striking targets at incredible speeds, making them nearly impossible to intercept. Beneath the surface, nuclear-powered submarines glide silently, each one able to carry devastating nuclear warheads, hidden threats lurking in the deep. These submarines, silent and deadly, are the unseen predators of the ocean, able to approach targets undetected and strike without warning. Their range covers vast swaths of Europe and North America, putting major cities and military bases within reach and forcing NATO to remain on constant alert. The surface fleet, cruisers, destroyers, corvettes, moves in tight, protective formation, creating a defensive bubble that makes any NATO operation in the area fraught with risk and uncertainty. By positioning warships in strategic choke points like the English Channel, Russia can control access to vital maritime routes, projecting power far beyond its own shores. This maneuver threatens vital shipping lanes, disrupting the flow of goods and energy supplies, and sending shockwaves through global trade networks. In response, NATO navies scramble to shadow the Russian armada, tracking every movement, every maneuver, determined not to be caught off guard. The result is a tense, crowded maritime environment, where warships from rival alliances operate in dangerously close proximity, and every encounter is a potential flashpoint. In the command centers, officers monitor radar screens with unwavering focus, knowing that a single mistake or miscalculation could escalate the situation in seconds. Commanders on both sides are under immense pressure, tasked with showing resolve and strength, yet desperately trying to avoid a spark that could ignite open conflict. Diplomacy and deterrence are in a delicate balance, as leaders attempt to demonstrate resolve without crossing the line into war. The North Atlantic has become a vast chessboard, with each warship a piece in a high-stakes game, every move calculated and fraught with consequence. Lethal pieces are in motion, and the world holds its breath as the tension mounts with every passing hour. Around the globe, people watch the news with growing anxiety, hoping that cooler heads will prevail and that restraint will win out over aggression. The margin for error is razor thin. A single misstep could have catastrophic consequences for millions. The stakes are nothing less than peace in Europe and perhaps the world itself, hanging in the balance as navies face off on the high seas. To understand this crisis, we must examine both sides' motives. For the US and UK, deploying nuclear weapons is a response to perceived Russian aggression. Cyber attacks, military buildups, and threats to NATO's eastern flank. It's a show of resolve. An attack on one is an attack on all. For Eastern European allies, it's reassurance. For Russia, it's provocation. The Kremlin sees NATO's expansion as a betrayal and a direct threat. Putin frames his actions as defensive, asserting Russia's right to security. Russia can't match NATO's overall power, so it leverages specific strengths, hypersonic missiles, submarines, to create vulnerabilities. The 150 warship fleet is a message: we can cause you unacceptable pain. It's a high-stakes gamble. Will fear force the West to negotiate on Russia's terms? Both sides are betting on strength to prevent war. The world is caught in the middle. This standoff is sending shockwaves worldwide. NATO's eastern members feel both reassured and terrified. New members like Sweden and Finland see their choices validated. Non-aligned nations call for calm, fearing they'll be caught in the crossfire. Economic fallout is immediate. Markets dip, energy prices surge, and shipping faces disruption. The crisis shows how interconnected our world is. Security disputes ripple into global wallets. Major powers like China watch closely, calling for restraint but echoing Russia's criticisms of NATO. China's stance could tip the balance, supporting Russia, mediating, or staying neutral. The UN is paralyzed, exposing the limits of global governance. When superpowers clash, few mechanisms can stop them. The hope for peace rests on a handful of leaders. The world waits for wisdom to prevail. Amid military posturing, diplomacy is still alive, barely. Both sides use sharp brinkmanship, each daring the other to blink first. US officials call the deployment non-negotiable. Russia vows to keep its navy at sea until the threat is removed. Publicly, there's little room for compromise. Behind the scenes, urgent back-channel talks are underway. Diplomats seek a face-saving exit, a way for both sides to claim victory and step back. Neutral countries may act as mediators, proposing solutions neither side can suggest alone. The UN Secretary-General urges dialogue, warning of catastrophe if leaders don't pull back. The international community is desperate for an off-ramp. Ultimately, the fate of millions rests with a few leaders, surrounded by conflicting advice. One misjudgment could trigger disaster. The world hopes for restraint over pride. In a nuclear standoff, there are no winners. Beyond strategy and headlines, real people are caught in the crossfire. In Suffolk, UK, residents now live with nuclear weapons nearby. Anxiety and protest are rising. Ordinary lives are upended by decisions made far away. On Russian and NATO warships, young sailors face tense, dangerous conditions, knowing a single error could be catastrophic. Their families wait and worry, feeling the crisis in a deeply personal way. Fear itself becomes a weapon, dividing societies, fueling nationalism, and eroding trust. Leaders may exploit this fear to consolidate power. The psychological toll is immense but invisible on any balance sheet. Calls for peace are not abstract. They're a demand to put human life above politics. Government's ultimate duty is the safety of their people. This crisis forces us to ask, what is true security? The answer will shape our future. The world stands at a perilous crossroads. US nuclear deployment in the UK has triggered Russia's massive naval response. This is a real, dangerous confrontation between nuclear powers. The impact is global. Security, economy, and stability are all at risk. The most urgent need is de-escalation. Continued military posturing only increases the risk of catastrophe. Dialogue and diplomacy are the only way forward. Leaders must prioritize human survival over short-term advantage. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. The choices made now will echo for generations. The world is holding its breath, hoping for peace.